afternoon. It's nice to be here with you again.
All right, so Doc, quickly react to the MPC rate that has just been released, 27.50, and other symmetric corridor benchmark that they have maintained. They haven't shifted ground. They still maintain what they did in the first quarter of 2025, and they're still maintaining it at this point in time. So what is your reaction to this new MPC MPR rate?
Okay, thank you so much. So the MPC in their meeting yesterday mentioned that they are maintaining the rates at 27.5, which was what held the last time they had their meeting, and that's interesting. And I believe I had an interview earlier today where I had mentioned that I believe the CBN is learning well, and I believe that one of the significant reasons that they are doing this is because they want to see how things go. Many policies have been implemented. There are many programs that are going on, and they want to be certain of the effect of these many programs before they take a significant decision. So I believe it's a good one, that it's a learning phase for the CBN. I only fear that the retention of the rates would also still cause a bit of increase in finance costs, because it's likely that lenders will increase their rates because the rates are remain. If, for example, the rates reduced, then maybe we would say that the finance costs will remain, but I fear that some lenders would increase their rates. All said and done, for businesses, I believe that it's going to also impact businesses. You know, if there is no access to finance, productivity is also low, and it's very difficult to business. So I fear that, but it's a good step in the right direction. I was expecting a reduction anyway, no matter how small. I was thinking that we would see a reduction, but that's not what we have today.
Exactly. And that means you are not part of the analysts, economists who are saying that the CBN need to maintain this rate. Even one of the leading foreign media carried out a poll, and majority of Nigerian economists were like, CBN must maintain the rate. But let's move away from that and take a course at our major discussion of the day. Doc, how have you assessed Nigerian informal sector? What is your concern about Nigerian informal sector over time?
Thank you so much. And just to chip in a bit about the economist, I'm not a regular economist.
Exactly.
So, theoretically speaking, with what is happening in the economy, yes, they should retain. But I believe that if there was prior more significant knowledge, maybe it would have led to a reduction. And that formed the basis for my own thoughts. Okay, so the informal sector, I want to say that sometimes it's misconception. What is the informal sector? You know, in the past we regarded those who do menial jobs as those in the informal sector, and we have moved significantly away from that. Seeing medical doctors become fashion designers, seeing university graduates taking up jobs that were before now reserved for those that were not in the real sector. So now, the definition of informal sector is a bit shaky. And what basis? Are we looking at it from the basis of taxes to say that they are not well captured formally in the tax net? Or are we looking at it from the basis of business? And when we look at it from the basis of business, then we begin to do further categorizations like nano, micro, small, or medium enterprises. So I would like to stick, for the purpose of our discussion, that we maintain that the informal sector are those, except you want us to digress from that, but I want, for the purpose of our discussion, that we should leave the informal sector as those that are not well captured in formal systems, with respect to financial inclusion, tax purposes, and economic categorization.
Go ahead, Doc.
Yes, please go ahead. Okay, so within the spaces of categorization, I would say that the informal sector in Nigeria is doing well, although I still maintain that many of them are in the business of make I see something chop. But the idea is that they are contributing. It's the reason why we have significant reduction in crime. It's the reason why we have at least some productivity. It's the reason why the government is also able to say and claim that they are supporting maybe women-led or youth-led businesses, because these guys show up every day and they are the engine oil that makes the engine work in Nigeria significantly. Because if you look at the number of large corporations in Nigeria compared to our population, it's very insignificant. So they are the ones doing the real work. And if you look at contributions generally to GDP, although it's difficult to measure, but we understand that they are significantly contributing to GDP. I must, however, say that there are still gaps, especially with respect to digital transformation. They have not been able to. They have not been able to take up digital tools for their business processes, for customer service, for example, for operations, for collections, for payments, for other areas of their businesses. Secondly, is that another challenge that they have is that because we have significant infrastructural deficiencies, they have not been able to maximize their business operations. Power supply, for example, internet access. So since we still have significant shortages in those areas, the informal sector has not been able to maximize, but definitely with respect to contributions, they have been doing significantly well.
Exactly. I will agree with you because I also read an article recently, it's just a particularly government article publication about the informal sector. But one of the critical things that we discover in this one of these writings from the government is that, just like you rightly pointed out, the categorization of this informal sector is still a challenge. The nano, the mano, the minor, the micro, we are still having issue. Who are the real informal sector? Recently, we saw some money coming from Development Bank of Nigeria. They're about to share about 500 billion naira to MSMEs in Nigeria. And you ask yourself, by the time I checked through that document, I was seeing part of the MSMEs are in the informal sector. And I was asking, which informal sector are they really talking about? But thanks to your analysis this point in time, we need to categorize some of this informal sector. Now, you made mention of the challenges they have faced. And one of the greatest challenges from interaction with some of them is the issue of structural deficit. Power, electricity is a big challenge. Why are we? Do you see the government taking this headlong? Because these are the major things that the informal sector players are complaining about.
Thank you so much. I believe that the government is doing something in that regard. That something may not translate to realities on the ground, but the minister, for example, had mentioned that generation and distribution has increased significantly. Also, we hear testimonies of people who say that electricity supply has improved in their areas, but also we have the very significant voices of people saying, see, yes, it has increased, supply has increased, but it's expensive. And there are those who claim also that supply has not even increased, it has even deteriorated from what they used to have before. And so then we cannot undermine the fact that many people have also gone solar way. So there is a significant amount of movement towards solar, but we also know that solar is not cheap. And so we have different factors.
Exactly.
Power will continue to remain a significant challenge in Nigeria if we don't tackle it from the ground up. It looks like we want to tackle it from top down. With respect to what is happening in local government areas and access to the way that the government has allowed, there's a legal ground now for even individuals to generate power. And so I believe that what we can do, because of the very disparate nature of Nigeria, is that we should start from the local governments. If local governments begin to provide power and access to energy, sustainable energy, and when I'm talking about sustainable energy now, I'm not talking about the foreign-based definition of sustainable energy. I mean energy that is sustainable within confines of our own realities. And so if we begin to do that from the local government levels to the state government levels, then it won't take time for us to make changes. I have not been to Abia, but what we read about Abia is that electricity supply has increased significantly. So I believe we should go downwards a bit from the local government and stop looking at the federal government as a whole, because it's going to be very difficult and expensive to have a national coverage that we want. But if we start from each local government doing their bit to ensure that they are maximizing their resources from wind to solar to water, if we aggregate that from the local government levels, then we'll begin to make significant progress.
Exactly.
That's my take.
Your take is quite very interesting and quite deep when it comes to this issue. But there are people who have argued that we need to take a clue or a lesson from the informal sector in India and how the Chinese government have been able to broaden and deepen the informal sector to the level that you can't even see the difference between the formal sector and informal sector in China, for example. So do you think there are lessons that we can learn from these two countries when it comes to, developing our informal sector or leveraging on them for economic development?
Certainly, I believe that learning lessons is a fact of life. I used to say that I read books because I want to learn how not to write, and I want to learn lessons of the writer. So yes, looking at China, India, and even other countries is significant. But we have to be careful and contextualize, because one significant mistake that we have made for far too long is that we have over-borrowed and oversimplified our own processes. Who told us that our own processes were bad or weak? Nobody did that. We told ourselves that lie, and we imported foreign cultures, and now we have problems with those foreign cultures, and they are not fitting into our own environment. So learning from others is very significant, but we have to ensure that they are domesticated, and so that we don't take away things that are not significant for us and just copy, and at the end of the day we don't make progress.
Very interesting. Now let's begin to provide insightful way forward for our policymakers. There have been several laws, there have been several frameworks, there have been several regulations. We also even created and established different agencies to take care of this informal sector that we have. We have SMIDAN, we have Bank of Industry, we have Development Banks of Nigeria, and several other institutions created that way. Even Nigerian National Directorate for Employment is also taking care of the informal sector in a way. But people are still arguing that, do we have much of this law in place, or law is not a problem? Let me ask you in this way. Is law the problem, or law is not a problem? Or is institution is a problem, or institution is not a problem? So which one is our issue within taking care of our informal sector in Nigeria?
So I don't think that there is any time where we would say that the legal framework for business development would stifle growth. So at any point in time, no matter how much we make our laws better, we will still have complaints. We will still say, there's something we need to do. And institutions too, yes, we have mentioned many of them. They are doing their best. But I believe that one of the shortcomings that these institutions have is the magnitude of value that they are providing. So I argued one time that the Nigerian government says that it's giving about 700 billion to social welfare to a country of, let's be conservative, 200 million people. Out of these 200 million plus people, we have over 50%, 133 million, based on 2022 statistics, living in multidimensional poverty. And I used to like to emphasize that it's not just poverty, but multidimensional poverty. That money is too small. So it's about magnitude. If we have bigger programs that uncover, if we even say we want to distribute 1 trillion naira today to the number of MSME owners and operators in Nigeria, it's not enough. The fraction that will come to each person will be so insignificant. To be in the low hundreds of thousands, and how much that do. And so it's about magnitude. We can be having these programs little by little, creating impacts here and there. But if we don't have very large programs that can cover for everybody significantly, or we have a targeted approach where we focus here, and drive access targetedly, then we won't do much progress. We won't do so much. And I believe that that's what the Nigerian government should be looking at. Let's look at bigger programs. So sometimes they say 500 billion. Yes, it looks big. But divide 500 billion by, let's say, even 5 million MSMEs. How much we get to each person. And so I think that it's an issue of magnitude, not that the laws yes, there are improvements in laws, even the tax reform that has recently passed the houses. We see that they will contribute to helping people make progress. But the magnitude of contributions from government funding sources is still very low.
Exactly. Doc, I really want to appreciate you for coming on the show today, and hopefully we'll still have to bring you back so that we can, explain more on this formal sector for Nigerian economic growth. Thank you for being on the show today, sir.
It's a pleasure to be here, sir. Thank you so much.
Enjoy the rest of your day.